stars for each challenge. And somehow, I did all of it. Yeah, do not ask me how I managed to beat everything, but you can probably guess which game I enjoyed playing the most out of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games. These challenges were added in a Halloween patch of the game, released on October 30th, 2015. And in this Halloween edition, all of the animatronics were changed with the exception of the Freddys, with Bonnie and Chica getting splashed with Whatsits, Foxy getting replaced with Mangle, Balloon Boy replacing Plushtrap, and instead of Nightmare, we have the puppet returning from FNAF 2 and 3, also known as Nightmare On. When Five Nights at Freddy's 4 was released, critics and audiences were divided over the game, me included. A lot of people pointed out to the increased tension of the nights as you're relying on sound cues instead of looking at the animatronics slowly arriving in your room via any of the cameras. Coupled with absolutely no dialogue in the game at all, which was a first for FNAF, this did make for a creepy game. The more emotional story surrounding a boy pretty much getting bullied and eventually murdered, yes, murdered, between the nights also tied everything together and served as a great finale to the entire Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Although stupid story beats that only served to add more confusion to the whole lore soured a lot of people from it. I remember a lot of content creators were extremely confused as the marketing made a lot of sense to loop things back to the Bite of 87 in the original game. But it's at this point that it seemed that Scott could have let go of the entire franchise. I mean, each of the games brought something entirely new to the indie horror genre, and it wasn't long before people started to make clones of FNAF. The critical response to FNAF 4 made this the lowest rated FNAF game, even to this day, and you can kind of see why. While the game certainly had a terrifying aesthetic, the over-reliance on sound cues just couldn't cut it for a lot of players. That being said, the franchise was at a high point. This was a great finale to a quadrilogy of games, and Scott commemorated it with a big render showcasing all of the animatronic designs he'd made from the first 4 games on his website, thanking all of his fans and friends for catapulting Five Nights at Freddy's into the limelight, ensuring that the franchise and story ended on a high point, lauded as one of the most iconic horror franchises in gaming history. Wait, what are you doing? Why is everyone changing? Wait, stop it! Why is everyone turning into Chibi? Stop! After the release of FNAF 4, Scott decided that the best course of action for the franchise was to take a little bit of a break from the scares. After all, releasing that many games in such a short amount of time is bound to cause someone to get just a tiny bit burnt out from the franchise. So Scott decided to slow things down a little and work on a brand new game almost immediately after the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. The marketing of Five Nights at Freddy's in general also plays a big part to this game in particular, as the render he made thanking the fans for supporting Five Nights at Freddy's featured almost every single animatronic in the franchise. However, starting from September 2015, some of the animatronic designs started changing in what I'd like to call the Teen Titans Go syndrome. I probably should think of a better name than that. Each of the animatronics started evolving into chibi versions of themselves one by one, with the render on the website updating almost every other day, and the thank you message slowly but surely being faded out to make way for the title of the game, which was revealed as FNAF World. However, fans looked at the promo material and were quick to claim a load of bollocks. FNAF World was initially released on Steam in 2016, and yes, I did say initially. This game is a complete and utter tonal shift from the previous games in the franchise. Where the past 4 games had you as the protagonist defending yourselves against haunted animatronics with the only gameplay being you moving your mouse around, Scott decided to throw all of that right out the window again and create an Excel spreadsheet game instead. Upon opening the game for the first time, he's actually serious about this one. FNAF World is essentially Scott Cawthon's answer to Teen Titans Go, where you take a franchise not necessarily for kids and then run it through a saturation filter.
Haven't we heard this one before?
All of the animatronics that were bound to give you nightmares from the original games have all been replaced with cuter versions of themselves? Except from Chica. Jesus Christ, why are her teeth like that? Who approved this? You will then notice that the game's customization options are quite similar to Chipper & Sons in that you're given 3 slots and upon starting a new game, you're asked to erase data, even though you've never even played this game before. That's a bit ominous. Afterwards, you're plunged into the next screen where you're tasked with picking your starter Pokemon, and you're given a wide variety of animatronics you're eventually going to meet throughout the game, with 40 potential playable characters, unless you go for the fixed party option, which will lock you to the first 8 options. After choosing your starters, you're then given context to the story of FNAF World, and you can tell that Scott has learned his lesson from Chipper & Sons many years ago, as this time the characters are all animated in the cutscenes. So what's the story here? Wouldn't you like to know? Trouble seems to be brewing in Animatronica. Scott seems to be really unsure about naming the world of FNAF because he even made a typo in the cutscene. This bodes well. There have been a lot of bizarre creatures roaming around lately, even some that look like... Wait a second. That wasn't remotely worth it. After the opening exposition dump, where you're tasked with going around to see what the hell is even going on here, you're plunged right into the game and... this is what you're greeted with. Hang on a second. I thought this was supposed to be 3D. Have I been Ubisofted again? I can't even move Diagon Alley. This tiny screen is essentially what you're going to be looking at for the entirety of the game, so have fun. The art direction that this specific part of the game seems to follow is the mini games that the franchise is all too known for, as you're given 4 options at the bottom of the UI to see your party members, save the game, and fight